Resilience is not a mere trait we inherit, but an unseen force that determines the course of our lives, especially in moments of crisis. In these moments, when everything seems uncertain, when the very foundation of our reality is threatened, it is resilience that decides whether we rise or fall. It is what separates those who merely survive from those who thrive against all odds. When we think of resilience, we often picture someone enduring, someone simply holding on through the storm. But resilience is more than that. It is not just about surviving. It is about transforming hardship into strength, about shaping the chaos of life into something meaningful and purposeful. We often fail to realize how powerful this force can be, how it can push us beyond our limits, leading us to achievements we never thought possible. Consider history's great moments of human endurance. The period of the Great Depression, the struggles of the Civil Rights Movement, the aftermath of wars. Each was a test of resilience. Individuals who faced these overwhelming circumstances found that their true strength was not just in physical survival, but in the ability to keep their minds strong, focused, and driven by a deeper belief in a better future. One man who understood the power of the mind in these moments of crisis was Napoleon Hill. His teachings would go on to influence millions, but it was his profound insight into the power of resilience, the ability to endure with purpose and belief, that remains central to his legacy. Hill believed that understanding and mastering the mind's potential was the key to not just surviving, but to thriving in any situation. It was through mental strength, rather than external circumstances, that true power could be cultivated. In this documentary, we'll delve into how Hill's philosophy of resilience can be applied to our own lives, offering tools and insights to help us navigate the most challenging moments with strength, clarity, and purpose. Because the key to staying strong in any situation, according to Napoleon Hill, is mastering the unseen force within us all, the power of the mind. At the heart of Napoleon Hill's philosophy is the profound belief that the mind is the most powerful tool a person can possess. In his seminal work, Think and Grow Rich, Hill makes a bold statement. What the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. This isn't just an inspiring motto. It's a universal truth, a fundamental law of human behavior. Hill understood that success, resilience, and even survival in the face of adversity all start with a single vital force: belief. This core principle is what separates those who merely cope with life's challenges from those who transcend them. It's not external factors or sheer luck that shape outcomes. It's the power of the mind, and more specifically, the ability to harness and direct belief. Hill's message is clear. If you can conceive of something in your mind and believe that it is achievable, then you are halfway to making it a reality. To understand the depth of this idea, we need to look beyond Hill's words and examine how modern psychology supports his claims. Research in the fields of belief and perception reveals just how much our thoughts shape our experiences. One of the most compelling examples of this is the placebo effect, a phenomenon in which people experience real changes in their health, simply because they believe they are receiving treatment, even when there is none. This effect is a stark demonstration of the mind's power to influence reality. What we believe, whether positive or negative, can manifest in tangible ways in our lives. In the context of Hill's teachings, this means that belief is not just a psychological tool, but a force that actively shapes the world around us. If we can train our minds to believe in success, to see adversity as an opportunity for growth, and to embrace challenges as stepping stones rather than obstacles, we can begin to reshape our reality. Consider the stories of Andrew Carnegie and Henry Ford, two of the most iconic figures in history, who embody Hill's philosophy in action. Carnegie, born into poverty, rose to become one of the wealthiest men in the world. Not because of luck, but because he understood that his thoughts and beliefs would determine his success. Ford, similarly, faced countless setbacks while developing the first automobile, yet his unshakable belief in his vision allowed him to push through obstacles that would have stopped others. Both men were relentless in their focus, believing in the potential of their ideas and, most importantly, in their ability to bring those ideas to fruition. Their success wasn't a random occurrence. It was the result of mental strength, clarity, and an unwavering belief in the possibility of achievement. Hill's teachings emphasize the importance of mental fortitude in the face of adversity. Life's challenges are inevitable, but how we respond to them determines our outcomes. Resilience doesn't come from simply enduring difficulty. It comes from mastering our own minds. By aligning our thoughts with our goals, and by cultivating belief in our ability to achieve them, we gain the strength to overcome any situation. Staying strong, according to Hill, begins with mastering the most powerful tool we have: our own minds. Napoleon Hill's philosophy on resilience was not just a set of abstract ideas. It was a practical guide for navigating real-world challenges. His teachings were conceived during a time of great turmoil, the Great Depression. This was an era when millions of people around the world were grappling with extreme poverty, unemployment, and despair. For many, survival itself was a daily struggle. Yet, in the midst of such adversity, some individuals rose to prominence and wealth, their success not a result of luck but of mental fortitude and the application of Hill's principles. Hill's era, the 1930s and 1940s, was marked by economic collapse, but it was also a time of remarkable resilience. Figures like Andrew Carnegie and Henry Ford thrived during this period, not because they were immune to hardship, but because they understood the importance of mastering their thoughts and beliefs. Carnegie, for instance, was born into poverty, but he became one of the wealthiest men in history. He did so not by accident, but by applying a focused, unyielding belief in the possibility of success. Hill's ideas helped shape the strategies of Carnegie and others like him. The belief that one could overcome any circumstance through mental discipline and the power of faith was a vital tool for success in this challenging time. But Hill's philosophy is not confined to just this period. In fact, his ideas can be traced throughout history, especially during times of widespread crisis. The aftermath of World War II, for example, was a time when entire nations had to rebuild from the ground up. This required resilience on an unprecedented scale, not just physical endurance, but mental strength. Leaders such as Winston Churchill understood this well. In the darkest hours of the war, when Britain stood alone against Nazi Germany, Churchill's speeches galvanized the nation, helping people find the strength to carry on despite overwhelming odds. The mental fortitude displayed during those years echoes Hill's teachings about the power of belief and perseverance in the face of adversity. Similarly, the civil rights movement in the U.S. during the 1960s serves as another profound example of resilience. The African American community faced immense social and institutional barriers, yet figures like Martin Luther King, Jr., and Rosa Parks embodied Hill's concept of strength through belief. Their resilience was not simply about enduring oppression, but about actively using their minds to envision a better future and mobilize the masses toward that vision. Just as Hill advised, their mental strength and belief in the possibility of change became the driving forces behind one of the most transformative movements in American history. By examining these key moments of history, it becomes clear that Hill's philosophy wasn't just theoretical. It was a set of practical tools used by the most successful individuals to navigate tumultuous times. Resilience is not about surviving through sheer willpower alone. It is about understanding and applying specific mental strategies. Hill's teachings show that the true power lies in the mind, the ability to focus, to believe, and to act with purpose, even in the face of overwhelming odds. At the core of Napoleon Hill's philosophy lies the idea that the mind has the power to overcome nearly any obstacle. But how exactly does the mind exert this power, and how can we use it to build resilience? To answer these questions, we must delve into the psychological aspects of resilience, the mental strength that enables individuals to adapt to adversity, recover from trauma, and continue pursuing their goals even when faced with seemingly insurmountable challenges. Psychological resilience is not a mystical trait, but a measurable, psychological process. It is the ability to cope with and recover from setbacks, stress, and adversity. Resilience, as Hill suggested, is not just about enduring hardship. It is about using mental strength to move beyond it and ultimately emerge stronger. Modern psychology provides us with a framework to understand this process and reveals how Hill's insights align with scientific research. Carol Dweck's work on the growth mindset is a perfect example of how resilience operates in the mind. Dweck's research suggests that individuals who believe their abilities can be developed through effort and perseverance are more likely to overcome challenges and achieve success. This growth mindset directly correlates with Hill's emphasis on belief. Dweck's findings indicate that the way we perceive challenges is crucial. When we view adversity as an opportunity to grow, rather than an insurmountable barrier, we cultivate resilience. Hill's teachings are a practical manifestation of this idea. His philosophy teaches that our belief in our ability to overcome obstacles can transform those obstacles into stepping stones. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, also provides critical insight into the psychology of resilience. Frankl's concept of logotherapy is built around the idea that individuals can find meaning in any situation, even in the most extreme and painful circumstances. Frankl believed that having a sense of purpose was the key to surviving suffering, and he argued that our ability to choose our response to adversity gives us power over it. This idea mirrors Hill's teachings, which emphasize that resilience is not about avoiding difficulty, but about developing the mental tools to endure and find meaning in the struggle. Frankl's own survival in Nazi concentration camps was not merely a result of physical endurance, but of his ability to maintain a sense of purpose despite the horrors around him. He chose to focus on the future, on the idea that his suffering could have meaning. In the same way, Hill teaches that our resilience is rooted in our mindset. By directing our thoughts toward positive outcomes, we can reshape our response to adversity. Hill's principle of applied faith aligns perfectly with Frankl's idea of finding meaning. When we actively believe in our ability to succeed and maintain faith in a better future, we are reinforcing our psychological resilience. However, the psychology of resilience is not without its complexities. While modern psychology suggests that resilience can be cultivated, there are limits to this process. It is crucial to ask, can resilience be developed in individuals who are born into systemic oppression, poverty, or dire circumstances? Is it fair to expect the same level of resilience from someone who faces the constant weight of inequality as from someone with more privilege or opportunities? These are difficult questions, but they challenge the assumption that resilience is solely an individual's responsibility. Research shows that social factors, such as access to resources, supportive relationships, and systemic opportunities, play a significant role in determining an individual's ability to be resilient. In cases of extreme poverty, discrimination, or trauma, resilience may be harder to cultivate regardless of mental fortitude. This does not mean that resilience is unattainable for everyone, but rather that it exists within a complex web of personal and societal factors. Hill's teachings, while powerful, may not be sufficient on their own for everyone. For some, resilience requires more than just mental strength. It requires access to the tools and support systems that enable individuals to overcome their circumstances. This reality forces us to reconsider the fairness of expecting the same level of mental toughness from everyone, given the differing challenges they face. Nonetheless, Hill's emphasis on mental strength remains undeniably powerful. When individuals are equipped with the right tools, belief, and mindset, they can overcome enormous challenges. But resilience is not a one-size-fits-all formula. It is a deeply personal journey, shaped not only by the mind but also by the environment and circumstances in which we live. Fear, in all its forms, is one of the greatest barriers to resilience. It is a natural and unavoidable human response to the unknown, to risk, to potential failure. However, what is often overlooked is that fear is not an external force that controls us. It is an internal construct, a product of our thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions. Fear only holds power over us when we allow it to dictate our actions. In reality, fear can be overcome, and it is through the mastery of this emotion that true resilience is cultivated. Napoleon Hill was acutely aware of the destructive power of fear. In his work, he identifies fear as the primary obstacle standing between individuals and their success. In particular, Hill highlights two fears that most frequently prevent people from achieving their true potential: the fear of poverty and the fear of criticism. The fear of poverty, Hill argues, is one of the most paralyzing fears, preventing individuals from taking risks, starting businesses, or pursuing their dreams because they are afraid of losing everything. Similarly, the fear of criticism stops people from expressing themselves, taking bold action, or seeking new opportunities because they fear judgment from others. These fears, while common, are not rooted in objective reality, but in our perceptions, and the stories we tell ourselves about what might happen. In the case of the fear of poverty, for instance, the fear is not based on the actual likelihood of financial ruin, but on the belief that failure would somehow diminish one's worth or identity. The fear of criticism operates similarly, as it is often more about how we imagine others will perceive us, rather than any real judgment or consequence. According to Hill, the solution to overcoming these fears is not external, it is internal. It lies in building self-confidence and cultivating a belief in one's ability to succeed, regardless of the risks or external opinions. This internal battle against fear is not new. Philosophers throughout history have recognized fear as a fundamental, human struggle. Seneca, the Roman Stoic philosopher, wrote extensively about fear, particularly the fear of death and the fear of uncertainty. He argued that we often waste our energy fearing things that have not yet happened, and that this fear serves only to prevent us from living fully. Seneca's philosophy teaches that by focusing on what we can control, our responses, our actions, we can overcome fear and transform it into a source of strength. Existential thinkers, such as Jean-Paul Sartre and Søren Kierkegaard, also grappled with fear in the context of human freedom and the anxiety of choice. Sartre's concept of bad faith describes how individuals often avoid making authentic choices because they fear the consequences of their actions. This fear, Sartre argued, stifles human potential. He proposed that true freedom and growth come only when we face our fears directly, embrace uncertainty, and take responsibility for our choices. Similarly, Kierkegaard's idea of the leap of faith highlights the necessity of transcending fear in order to move forward in life. Fear, for Kierkegaard, is something that must be embraced and surpassed to achieve personal transformation.